Can you tell me your name? Jessie. Well, how old are you? First. The girl she sees here is Jessica Lunsford, a 9-year-old. But everything changed on the 24th of February in the year 2005. In that evening, her father left her with her grandfather, unaware that this regular night will soon turn into the worst nightmare in their lives. The next morning, when he went to get it for the school, discovered a horrific thing. Jessica has disappeared without any trace of her. The police rushed to the Lunsford family home and combed the place. But there were no signs of storming or conflict. And with the passage of every hour, the hope of finding Jessica is alive. All hopes are related to the efforts of law enforcement devices and any potential witnesses. 45 miles north of Tomba is the quiet village. The rhythm of this slow town contradicts the rhythm of the major cities, which makes it look like time to move in it differently. In the year 2004, the single father, Mark Lunsford, decided to move to live with his parents, believing that this place is the most appropriate to raise his 9-year-old daughter. Since her birth, Jessica has been a kind-hearted and loved girl inside the family. She was known as Jess's title. She was comfortable and full. It was a quiet Wednesday night, like any other night in the Lunsford family home. After returning from the church, Jessie spent some time with her father and grandfather before she went to bed at about 10 in the evening. After about half an hour, her father, Mark, left to visit his girlfriend, who lives only 3 miles away that night. There was no indication that something unusual would happen, but by the morning, the life of the Lunsford family was about to change forever when Mark Lunsford returned to the house. The next morning, he felt immediately that there was a wrong thing. His parents asked about his daughter and told him that they saw her last time while she was sleeping in her room. When they realized that Jessie is missing, they did not waste any time and contacted the police immediately. The family was sure that Jessie did not escape at its own free will, as she had a strong and luminous relationship with love and had no reason to leave. While the police were on their way to Lunsford's house, Mark was already doing everything he could to find his daughter. The officers combed the house in search of any evidence, but there were no signs of storming or conflict in the Jessie room. Her school clothes were still carefully placed in place exactly as she left her. The room looked like, except for one thing. She played her beloved dolphin, which Mark gave her after he won it in one of the competitions. She was missing. No one could believe that a little girl could wake up in the middle of the night and simply leave. Soon it became clear that this was not an ordinary disappearance. Due to the importance of time, the local police contacted the FBI immediately for assistance. They had recently been able to resolve the issue of the disappearance of another child with a happy ending, and everyone was hoping to repeat the same result. The last time Jessica was seen at 10 o'clock in the evening when she went to her room to sleep. Family members remembered that the house was calm that night. There was no noise, uncommon, nor disturbances. Even the family dog, which was usually barking when strangers approached, remained silent, which made it unlikely that there was an infiltrator who broke into the house by force. The only situation was that it was on the piece. It was about half of the piece. There were ingredients. With the absence of any signs of a conflict that has emerged more anxious, may have left Jessie voluntarily with someone you know, and this was the most terrifying idea ever. Statistically, most of the crimes are committed by persons known to the victim. Their top priority was to exclude anyone who might trust Jessie from the list of suspects in the cases of missing persons. to ensure coordination of efforts and monitoring potential suspects, including the Lunsford family itself. The FBI established a mobile leadership center on the site. The investigators were facing a very complex case, and no one was excluded from the circle of doubt, regardless of his relationship with the victim. While the investigators continued to search for answers, the news of finding a body was found in a lake 75 miles away. Mark Lunsford rushed to get to know her, but he felt very comfortable when he was sure that she was not Jessie. Without wasting any moment, the authorities expanded the search and rescue efforts in the entire region, and at the same time, another team of investigators began checking the backgrounds of the main suspects, starting with the father of Jessie, Mark Lunsford. But soon his innocence was proven, as he had a strong absence argument, as he spent the whole night with his girlfriend, who confirmed his presence with her. When he returned to the house at 55 minutes in the morning, Jessie had already disappeared. Investigators, adept at revealing the hidden facts, and with their arrival to wide records, they did not leave a stone without turning it. During the investigation, they discovered that years ago, Mark was charged with inappropriate behavior towards his ex-wife. Although the charges were dropped, this information caught the attention of the investigators. Determining to acquit his name permanently, Mark agreed voluntarily to submit to the lying statement test. Although no clear signs of deception appear, the results of the test were not fully reliable after that. About the investigators, their attention to Jesse Lunsford, as he was at home when she disappeared, what made him a major person in the investigation, and underwent a 6-hour severe interrogation. And despite the pressure, Archie did not retract his novel. He confirmed that on the night that Jessie disappeared, he left his room only once to take out the dog, and despite his adherence to his innocence. But at a certain moment he collapsed and confessed to the secret of his burial for many years. She had been associated with her years ago in discussing the killing of a little girl who killed her. The incident, which occurred 50 years ago, was concerned about the investigators. And despite the dropping of the accusations of customer poetry that they are on the verge of discovering an important thing, so they decided to continue the investigation of this direction. The police noticed that Archie was not particularly troubled about the situation, which prompted them to take strict measures. Al-Sharif deceived Mark Lunsford by telling him that they found Jessica's blood on her grandfather's underwear. At that moment, Mark was filled with anger and realized that the police were trying to push him to question the innocence of his father. Despite the severe pressure, Archie Lunsford held his novel and continued to deny any relationship with his granddaughter. Yet the only goal of the police was to reach the truth. In the hope of acquitting himself and silencing the doubts, Jesse agreed to submit to a test of lying. But as was the case with his son Mark, Archie did not show any physical reactions to what made the results not decisive. With no conclusive evidence against them, about the FBI focus on another possibility, which is the kidnapping of children by a parent after divorce. Mark Lunsford had obtained the full nursery of his daughter after his wife left him 8 years ago. And since then Jessie has assumed the role of the mother. But this change did not affect Jess's life, as her grandmother has always been more than she took care of her. Even when she lived within a traditional family, the investigators studied that Jess's mother had decided to restore her. Mark had no contact with his ex-wife years ago and her latest title in Ohio. While the investigators went there to interrogate her, the home of the Lunsford family became the center of the growing community. By midday, large numbers of local residents gathered outside the home, desperate to help search for Jessie. With the passage of minutes, more voluntary research teams joined each stone in search of any trace of the missing girl, realizing that time is not in their favor. Meanwhile, the police found Jess's mother in Cincinnati, that she had not seen her daughter for years and provided exact evidence of her whereabouts at the time of disappearance. 24 hours have passed since Jessica Lunsford disappeared from her room, and no one has been able to explain how she disappeared without leaving any trace. Doubt returned to surround her mother when a report appeared stating that Jessica witnessed in Ohio, just a miles away from the last known address of her mother. This information came from a retired officer, and the moment everyone was imprisoned, the witness reported that he saw a girl like Jessica. The police did not waste any time to track the car, and when they were found, they found a girl who resembles Jessica a lot, but she was not. With every false thread, feelings of frustration and despair increased. Investigators decided to expand the circle of the suspects, so they started examining the absence arguments for her friends, teachers, and even members of her church. Everyone who knew Jessie was eager to help her as much as the police, and none of them hesitated in full cooperation with the investigation. However, despite the efforts made, no new evidence showed the customers to return to the missing girl's room in the hope of finding something that might have missed before. Finally, their efforts resulted. They discovered a torn law network in the hallway. This is what I know in the sense of the station. Where they mean the station. Putting their hand during the station and closing the door on the inside. He did not open the door because it was installed in a broom handle. Of these discoveries, the investigators gave a new thread and expanded the list of the suspects. The Citrus County community was called for special research dogs to track the smell. This suggested that the girl was taken away in a car, and as a result, the investigators turned their focus into a possible thread of the last registered gardens and condemned crimes related to harassment. In the area surrounding the Lunsford family home, there were about 50 individuals of this type. Police officers began to interrogate people within half a mile and gradually expanded their search. As for the investigators, finding Jessie has become the main reason for their coming to work every day and dealt with her disappearance as if they were their missing daughter. With the approval of the FBI, Jessica's father devoted himself to keeping his daughter's disappearance in the spotlight. He made a leaflet that contains her descriptions, and he made everything in his power to ensure that the largest possible number of people know its cause. In the end, these media efforts resulted. After several days, the FBI finally received information. A man in a local supermarket was seen accompanied by a girl that matches Jessica's descriptions. But when Mark reviewed the surveillance cameras, he noticed that the unknown girl took a package of fried onion rings. It is something that his daughter was never to eat at that moment. Mark realized that the girl was not his daughter, and his hopes were shattered again in a moment. The police decided to suspend the search for the missing girl and focus on the suspect instead. They managed to identify all places except for one man, John Coy. But he no longer lives in his previous address. Then one of the investigators remembered that he knew John's sister, as he had arrested her in the past. In an unexpected development, it was discovered that her house was located directly opposite the Lunsford family home. And according to his sister, she moved from the house and her brother John lived in it now. The presence of a convicted criminal just steps away from the place where Jessica disappeared. Serious concerns when customers arrived at home. They discovered that he had disappeared. The neighbors said that he suddenly left for Savannah, Georgia just a few days after the girl disappeared. The police had searched all the houses in the area, but for some reason, it did not occur to anyone to ask about the person who was living directly through the street. Throughout the investigation period, John did not cause any doubts among the law enforcement authorities. He began to leave his home only late at night to avoid drawing attention and succeeded in that. Although there is no direct link between John and the 9-year-old Jessica's disappearance, his criminal record raised the authorities' concern. He had been convicted of a remarkable crime. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but he was released after only 2 years. although they did not know his exact location after the FBI informed the Georgia police of the need to be cautious and monitoring it, and in the end their efforts resulted in John. The man came to the police station voluntarily, but it was clear from his speech that he was tense. In order to know that the police do not have an arrest warrant against him, he answered all their questions. Then he demanded his release immediately. In the bedroom, they found a blood-stained bed, but they were unable to determine its source. This discovery increased doubts about John. But by the time when he left the police station, he had already managed to leave the city heading to an unknown destination. Then the provincial police chief published the image of John and his name in the national media. The next morning he saw him witnessed at a bus situation in Augusta, Georgia, and was quick to inform the authorities about his sight. He was arrested shortly and after a long interrogation. The police initially believed that he might not be involved in the disappearance of the girl, but they were even ready to return to Florida. But before leaving the investigators asked him to conduct a test of lying detection, and he agreed without hesitation. John acknowledged that he was watching Jessica while playing in the courtyard days before she was kidnapped, and on the night of February 25 under the influence of illegal articles, he stormed the Lunsford house via the back door. He walked through the house to Jessica's room and told her that he would take her to her father. Then he led her through the street to his sister's house, where he assaulted her. Ask her if she can go home, and said she will go home if she will enter these devices and do so. Then I closed the forests around it, closed it on its foot, closed it in a room, closed it, closed it, closed it, closed it, closed it, and closed it. Thanks to his confession, investigators were finally able to reveal the truth about the whereabouts of Jessica Lunsford. This time, the assistants said that they took their car and covered this house. All the house. And all the large house. John led them to a site next to the back stairs, 150 yards only from Jessica's bedroom window, found in a shallow grave with a depth of about 4 feet. She was wrapped in 2 bags of garbage and her hands are bound in front of her holding her favorite game. Jessica was buried for 2.5 weeks. John Coy was so harsh that he dared to bury her while she was still alive. Everyone was hoping for a better result of this little girl, but unfortunately this was not destined for her. The medical examination confirmed that Jessie, who was 9 years old, was likely alive for a few hours after leaving the room. Investigators believed that the dirt on the criminal gloves, which left an impact on the pillow, indicating that John had previously dug the grave before entering the home of the Lunsford family. By the time when Jessica's disappearance was reported, she had already buried. It has now become the responsibility of the public prosecutor to seek justice to Jessica, and describe the case as one of those issues that lead you to do everything in your power to ensure that the perpetrator faces the maximum possible penalty. Unanimously condemned John Coy's jury in the Jessica Lunsford case, which led to the utmost punishment. John Coy died in prison 2 years after the sentence was issued due to health complications. The tragic fate of Jessica with a 9-year-old had a profound and permanent impact on everyone who participated in the search for her.